This little video is to talk about making appliers for the Jinx Centaur tattoo layer. If you are familiar with making appliers for Jinx products, you will recognize the little applier HUDs to a certain extent down on the left-hand side there, but there's some changes that I've made because the tattoo layer has multiple parts and multiple faces. So the tattoo layer is in two parts, the hooves and the body. And the hooves have four faces, so one for each hoof. The body part of the tattoo has six faces, which is the near side, off side, and each individual limb. To just clarify, near side is the side that you would mount a horse. Okay, so that's the left side as you're looking forward. So just to show you, that's this side here, that's the near side, which means that the other side, this side, is the off side. So I'll show you what each of the different HUDs do and which parts they apply to. The first HUD included is the one called no hooves, and that will apply to the near side and offside body and all four limbs together. So if I click that one, you can see where it applies to. The next one is called body, and it applies to the near side and offside body part only. This next one has four mini appliers in the one applier HUD, and this will apply to the near fore limb, the off fore limb, the near hind limb, and the off hind limb. The next HUD included is called hooves and applies to all four hooves at once. And lastly, the HUD called hoof applies to each individual hoof, starting with the near fore, off fore, near hind, and off hind. So you can choose whichever HUD is most appropriate for what you have created. If you want to apply something to all four hooves and you expect your customers to apply them to all four, then you would use the hooves applier. If you've created something for the hooves that your customers might want to apply to each individual, or some or other, then you would use hoof. So let's have a look at how to actually create the appliers. If you are familiar with Jinx appliers for other products, then you will already recognize some of what I'm going to go through, but these are slightly different because we're dealing with multiple parts and multiple faces. Let's just take a look at the first one here, which is no hooves. So go into the edit dialog box, edit linked, and select the front square, the one that says put a pretty texture of your product here. Okay, inside there you will find a script called text, and all the part that needs the editing is at the top, above the part that says you shouldn't need to change anything below here. Okay. And you'll see a number of UUIDs. These are the placeholder UUIDs that you can see here now, and those are the ones that need to be replaced with the UUID of your own texture. You can find the UUID of your texture if you open your texture, and this button here will copy it to the clipboard, and then you can go in and replace the UUIDs that are there as placeholders. You might use the same texture UUID for all the different parts because all the different parts are on one UV of the Centaur, or you might have different textures that you've used for different parts, in which case you would paste each one into there. Once you've pasted your UUIDs in, you can just save them. And when you press the applier, you'll see them apply to the tattoo layer. And you can see that I replaced the top UUID for my texture UUID, but I left the others as the placeholder, which is why you can see them here. The HUDs that have the 4 mini appliers on the front, you will need to go into each of the mini appliers and edit each script. So each one has just one line here. You can see this is for the near side forelimb, and the one next to it will be the offside forelimb, and the near hind and off hind. So you'll need to go into each one of those mini appliers and edit the scripts. And that goes for the hoof applier HUD as well. Now you may not want to give out a product that has 3 separate appliers in it, and you can link them together, make life a little bit easier for your customers. So you might have a tattoo that you're giving that has options for individual limbs and individual hoofs. An example of this might be if you had like a paint tattoo, as in skewbald or piebald, because you might have different socks and you might have different coloured hooves corresponding to whether the leg has white skin or dark skin. So you wouldn't really necessarily want to give out 3 separate HUDs that the person has to attach separately. So in this case, what we can do is perhaps take the body, the individual limb, and the individual hoof HUDs. Let's just separate those out, put them closer together, and you can actually link those together to form one HUD. Inside the pack for the dev kit for the tattoo layer, you will find a blank Centaur applier texture. Okay, and you might want to place that on the 2nd and 3rd parts of your HUD so that you don't have the title on all 3. You can use the other prims there to put your logo and perhaps some description of what each part of the HUD affects. If we take that back into my inventory and add it, you can see that it's just one HUD, and they'll be able to apply each part as they wish. When someone purchases the Centaur tattoo layer, there are some blank tattoo appliers in there so that they can remove the applied textures to the tattoo layer if they want to. Just a really important reminder: when you receive your dev kit for the tattoo layer, just like any of the dev kits for Jinx appliers, the applier HUDs are full palm. They have to be for you to make them yours, to put your textures in them and to pass them on to other people. However, if you don't change your perms before you pass them on, then you risk people passing on your product to other people or stealing your textures. So very, very important, and I'll just show you here. This is a single HUD that I've created out of 3. This is the remove texture HUD that is included in the Centaur tattoo layer when people buy it. So it is a link set, so make sure that it is no transfer, no mod on the edit dialog box. But you also, I recommend, go into each of the front parts that contain the text script and make sure that the script itself is no mod, no transfer. And do that for each part of the HUD that has that. If you don't do that, it will throw up in the local chat that you haven't done that. It might be a faff, but it is there for the protection of your products. So just go through and make sure that they're all no mod, no transfer.